What's up, everybody? Welcome to the High Level Husband Podcast. I'm Tommy McCollister, joined by Diane McCollister today.
Hey, everyone.
So, guys, we're going to jump in quick on this. And this one might ruffle some feathers, but I think it's also going to bring a lot of clarity to things. And I just want everybody to always know what we do here is 100% biblical. Our lives that we serve every single day, nothing else matters to myself and Diane but serving Jesus. Like, that's our whole life revolves. Every single aspect of the whole entire day is that.
Yes.
There's not a moment that it's not that.
Yeah.
And so, guys, I want you guys to always know that first and foremost, because we didn't choose this mission. We didn't choose like, oh, we just want to be like marriage people and all these things. No, God 100% chose that for us in all of those different aspects. And so, guys, what we're going to talk about today is in trying to empower women to be everything, we've weakened the family and silenced strong men. So, guys, there's one way to do things, it's God's way. And there's another way to do things, and it's the wrong way. So it's either God's way or the devil's way. And you may not be serving the devil or anything like that, but if you're not doing it God's way, you are serving the devil. That's just what it is. You're either building God's kingdom, the kingdom of God, or you're building up the kingdom of the devil, one or the other. It's one or the other. And so I hate the word toxic, right? Because people always say toxic masculinity is bad. And I just can't stand that word is toxic, because typically the people who use that, I'm not trying to get political on here, but I think we could already know what type of people use the word toxic in all those aspects. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to disempower men, right? And take away the men's what God created them to be in so many different ways. Like if you really look at why this nation's split in a lot of different ways, no, abortion's a good thing and all these other aspects. And of that, well, Jesus said, or the Bible says, he knew you before you were in the womb, So before you're in the womb and when you're in the womb, he knew you. So then you got killed off. Every person has a chosen path. I'm not going to say anything about abortion right here. I'm going down this path. That's God's way. But the one side is going to tell you that. They're going to say, empower women, do all these other things. And it's just dividing the home, and it's clear cut and dry of it. One side saying, if you feel like a girl, be a girl. If you feel like you're a cat, be a cat. If you want to have litter boxes in high school bathrooms, put litter boxes in high school bathrooms, because guess what? That's how they feel. No, not at all.
That's toxic.
That is, yeah. If you're going to use the word toxic, that's what it is. Yeah. Because here's the truth, guys. I personally was out in Tulsa, Oklahoma this week, coaching at a men's event. And man, I just watched chains break off of men, like massive chains. And we watched a lot of people who had mindset issues, which would be identity issues. And a lot of times the culture that we live in today, and I'm going to get into this women thing here in just a second, but we'll tell you this right here. Oh, you have ADHD. Oh, you have bipolar disorder. Oh, you have this. Typically, what those things are is a demonic oppression, an oppression of some type, an identity issue that the culture has spoke over you, your family spoke over you, a doctor has spoken over you, or anybody else has spoken over you, because you start seeing somebody act that way and they go, oh, I have bipolar. And then you go, well, tell me what that is. And you go, I feel that way. And then you're like, maybe I have it. Well, then now you've started this trigger in your brain that you have it, and the devil's got you. And they're going to run down that spot of it, instead of realizing that, no, that's not how you actually think. So whether you think you're transgender, whether you think you're gay, whether you think you're a cat, or whatever it is, it's one of those typical aspects of things that some type of trauma came into your life, and it started that. And that trauma, you might not even remember. It might happen when you were 2 and you don't even know what was happening, that it was shifting in you, that your family invited a demonic something in your house or whatever it may be, or a trauma got triggered and it triggered you down that path. And so with the power of God, we break those chains. With the power of God, the Holy Spirit going into rewiring your mindset and going and fixing those things and curing those things. We've seen it time and time again. And so I just wanted to jump on that. But culture is going to tell you one thing, that's okay. God's way is saying, no, we're not standing on that, that we serve a God that can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine.
That's right.
On that. We're going to stand on that. So guys, let's jump into this women's empowerment movement. And so here's the thing. I always tell people this all the time. Yes, I'm like the head coach. Yes, I'm the speaker. Yes, I'm the creative one behind all of this. Yes, I'm the leader of our household and leader of this business. But I tell everybody this all the time, that Diane is 100% equal, if not more important, to what we do than what I do for all of this.
We're a team. If I didn't do what I wouldn't do, you wouldn't be able to do what you do.
Absolutely. In
Because
all
then
the
your
different
energy
aspects.
and your time would be taken to do the things that I do. So it really is a joint structure. And that's why God created it, man and woman together, not man to do it by himself or woman to do it by herself.
Yeah, we're going to get into the negatives of the empowering, but I want to touch on that for a second here. Is that, the culture is going to tell you, well, women go do this, women do that, women. Like, there's nothing that brings me more happiness in life. And it's the only real times that I get emotional is when I see a strong woman break through chains,
Mm-hmm.
fall into her feminine aspects, but then also break through and just reach who God created her to be and all those things and see them succeed. It's like, it just brings me to so much emotion, more so than men. It's just a really weird thing. I don't know why it happens in those aspects, but it does, not just for you, but for other women who are in our life. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just so amazing to see happen. And so when we start thinking about these aspects of empowering them, women are amazing. We're not better. That's not saying men have more rights, are better, that women aren't equal, or anything of that. 100% awesome in your own ways, and us awesome in our own ways. God created you perfect in your guys' own ways, and us perfect in our own ways. But we are very different. We are very different. And biblically, that is so, you just go down on how we were even created. We are very different. That God created Eve as a helper to Adam, right? And that's what a wife's role is to be a helper to her husband, not so her husband can just like play golf and like drink beer with the boys and go make a bunch of money and then like check out chicks on Instagram. No, the husband is supposed to be submitted to Christ, right? So God says, you knew him before in the womb and he has his chosen path for you. So when the husband submitted, he's a sub part of God's mission.
Mm-hmm.
This is about God's story, his story. The word of history, when you look in the past, is his story. We don't say my story. No, like even in history in class, like in school, is his story, but it's his story. We are a part of his story. He's not a part of our story.
Right.
And no, so I am a sub part mission to God. And if I'm in my lane doing what he's created me to do, then with the helper that he's given me, from me, that's Diane, you are submitted to me, a sub part of my mission. And because of that, we then play our roles to then complete this mission together as a team, which why he brought us together to as one to go accomplish these things. And because of that, you do your roles, I do my roles. But if your roles become my roles, then the mission will not get complete.
No.
And so let's break this down real quick before we get into a lot of these aspects. For example, Diane has her roles in the house. She does the dishes. She does the laundry. The kids help around and vacuum and do a bunch of other stuff. Diane prepares all the food, makes all the food. We eat the same food every single day of the week. Me and Diane do our kids eat other meals. So she prepares them their meals, but she meal preps for both of us.
Right.
Why? So then I can not focus on any of that. You make sure the kids are dialed in their aspects. I spiritually lead them and emotionally lead them and physically lead them. And we take them in those aspects and do those things. But I cannot waste any of my efforts folding laundry, doing dishes, doing any of that other stuff, because you need me and God needs me in my unique, specific, best part of my day, focusing on that. And if I can focus on that, I'll win the most for our mission. And if that mission will then go faster because I'm in that. But if I have to split my time with doing all these other things,
Yeah.
I'm going to be more exhausted, have less time to spend with God, less time to be in the word, less time for prayer, less time learning, less time doing all these other things that I need to make sure that I'm in my best operating spot, right? That's why I spend 32 hours a week on personal development and spiritual development every single week. And because of that, I can show up to the best and kill it at what I'm best at. I then delegate every single one of my other tasks. Because of that, I'm not pulled in a million different directions, and I can always be ready to get in the game. Let's say I'm a defensive end in a football game. I'm ready to get in at the third down and sack this fool. Like, I'm ready to go at all times. But if I'm playing offense, defense, and special teams, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And then when I'm never going to be great at anything, and my mission is going to be wore down. I'm not going to be all that great of a husband. I'm not going to be all that great of a father. I'm not going to be all that great of a coach or evangelist or anything like that. And you get actually a less version of me. So you actually get a better husband by by me not doing those things.
Yeah.
But the world's going to say, hey, You need to do more dishes. You need to do more chores. You need to be the one giving the kids the bath. It's 50-50 in the house. So then what they're actually going to get is a husband who's now not able to go do his mission as much. And he's going to do those other parts more, which is going to help out at the household. But help out at the household isn't moving the needle forward in the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can be in your roles, killing it in those, and understanding that that's just as important as me speaking on stage, as me coaching high level men, you folding the laundry is no different than me being on a stage in front of a multitude of people.
That's right.
There's no different in that. I don't look at that and go, well, babe, like, yo, I'm the one really making all the money. I'm the one on stage, and get back in the kitchen and make me a sandwich.
I'm the one keeping you clean with a clean towel.
But you're doing all the things that take that stress off of me.
Absolutely.
So I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
So you make those roles there. But I've also, on the flip side, so you handle all of that stuff. And don't get me wrong, you do other things for the business. It's not just the guy, she's not just doing the work, those aspects.
Yeah.
But I've made it a spot in your life, whereas before you had to work from 8:30 to 5.
And then I still had to go and do all of those other things. And it goes to show it's like the opposite of what you were talking about. If you had to do all of those things, you would be stretched thin and wouldn't be able to do your actual role. And that's how I was at one point, because I was working a full-time job and then I was doing all of the other role that I do now also on top of it. And we saw what happened. We saw that I was a bad mom yelling at the kids. I was overwhelmed. I wasn't doing my role right because I was overwhelmed by doing too many things. So it's the same thing on the opposite flip side too.
100%. And so it's like, what if we just get in our ideal roles? Like a defensive lineman shouldn't be trying to play wide receiver, and a wide receiver shouldn't be trying to play a defensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes in football, if a quarterback's like, gets all of them get hurt, there's always one person on the team who will come play the quarterback, and it's like the wide receiver, but he'll typically hand the ball off, or it's like simple plays. Or if somebody needs to punt because the punter's got hurt, there's like the one dude who will go in there. But that's not his ideal spot.
Mm-hmm.
We need the men in their ideal spot, and we need the women in their ideal spot of their roles. It doesn't mean you're less than.
Right.
The whole purpose of this life is to love God, love others, create disciples of all nations. And because of that, let's put ourselves in roles. But when we're trying to empower people, we're saying, no. The purpose of life is to be rich as possible, grow your status as much as possible, empower yourself as much as possible, keep up with the Joneses, do all of that. And in that's what they're trying to do. And because of that, they're unfulfilled. Their marriage sucks. Their kids are falling in the same thing. And all these things fall apart because they don't even understand the purpose of life. Oh no, maybe we know more. Well, let me see here. You probably think that the purpose of life is that you're supposed to be a good person, raise good kids, and save for retirement. That's not the purpose of life on all that. You know what you probably think your purpose of your money is? For security, for possessions, and experiences. Well, you want me to tell you what money's actually for? To get other people encounters with God. And when you get other people encounters with God, you get encounters with God. And when you get encounters with God, you're not concerned about the security, the possessions, or experiences, because the only experiences you're getting is the chills, the Holy Spirit experience that's better than any of those things. Because Jesus says, do not the ravens don't sow or reap or store up in a barn. And don't I take care of you? Take care of them. So he's saying that, like, security, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but don't let your stresses be over it. Right. Don't let that be the purpose of your life. If you do it, you can do it, right? And possessions, like, sure, get some stuff, have a house over your things, but don't make that the purpose of your life. And experiences, what do you need to go on all these crazy wild trips for? Because the experiences with God, the encounters with God, you can have in a prison cell or in a mansion, right? Either way, those things are better than any of the worldly experiences. And so you get those by getting encounters for other and getting them for yourself. And so when you get this family dynamic where it's supposed to be, you get to be feminine, I get to be masculine. But when I've seen the women take the masculine role, they want to be on the watchtower. Sometimes it's because the men handed it to them because they were trying to, like, get more nookie, and they were trying to, like, not ruffle the feathers. And guess what? The woman took the role. Women, there's no such thing as a stay-at-home dad, unless there is a kingdom mission that he's doing of that aspect of it. But if it's the dad at home doing the dishes, the laundry, and bathing the kids on that, then the wife's the CEO. That is not the kingdom order. I'm just telling you that right now. The world will say, yeah, it's whatever, no. That's not how it is.
Because a lot of people will be like, oh, whatever works for them, but it doesn't work for them. They might think it works for them, but it doesn't work for them.
Whatever works for them.
Yeah.
Do what makes you happy. Yeah. That is the devil telling you that. Yes. Do what makes you happy, bro. Yeah. Drink. Come on, man. Everybody drinks. Come on, man. Everybody watches porn. Do what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. Whatever works for you. It's whatever works for God, not you. This is not about you. It's about God, his story, not your story. This is about his mission and not your mission.
Yeah.
This is about him. Do whatever works for you is the devil. Do what makes your heart content is the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Do what makes you happy is the devil.
Yeah.
I consider my life worth nothing to me. And I found more joy and peace and happiness than I could ever find it when I was like trying to do the things that made me happy. Oh, I got to be able to ride my bike. Like, I got to be able to do things too. And guess what? When I finally removed that, I found even more happiness and joy. When I stopped doing all of the hobbies, habits, and all these things that were more worldly, watching UFC and, doing all these other things, guess what? I found more happiness and peace and joy
Mm-hmm.
because I'm getting more encounters for other people with God. And then that's bringing me more encounters with God. So I don't want to get off topic here, but so let's dive into it. This empowerment movement is there's like, we're going to break through like the reasons why it's why some bad things that will happen with it, because it will demasculate the men. It will break the family dynamic and it will separate the home. Devil's so smart on this one,
Mm-hmm.
because when that happens, when the father is leading the family in faith, I think it's 80 something percent that the children will follow along faith. Purpose of life. If the husband's not in the picture or he's not leading the faith and it's the wife, it's a 20 something percent chance. These are proven statistics.
Yeah.
But if the man is not in the house, 1 in 4 kids in this US grow up without a father in the home. 85% of youth in prison come from fatherless homes. 71% of high school dropouts, 90% of homeless runaway kids, and 75% of drug addicts come from fatherless homes. Do you hear those stats? And you're like, well, but that could be from multiple different things. Well, a big part of that is disempowering the man, empowering the woman, and making the dynamic of the household not be what it is. Instead
Right.
of like, I'll empower you. I encourage Diane more than I encourage anybody else.
Absolutely.
I champion, like, I was just yesterday on the walk, and I was just like, babe, I just love how the Holy Spirit's speaking to you so much. I love how you're noticing it even more in these things. Blah, 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 blah. I'm encouraging, I'm championing you in these roles and all these other aspects, right? We do these things on a regular daily basis. And because of that, your role is your role, and you're so fulfilled with that. Not that God's going to keep you exactly there, he'll keep growing you. But when you ruin the family dynamic, these are the stats that come from that. What can we do to bring this back and have the fathers in the home? And you will drastically lower all of these things. Number 2, role reversal creates confusions. Boys don't know how to be men. Girls think being feminine means being weak or oppressed. And those are those roles reverse. Boys don't know how to be men.
Mm-hmm.
Men are leaders. Men are going out taking territory. Men are the husband is the head of the wife, just as Christ is the head of the husband. Women think that being feminine means that you guys are sitting there knitting and like you're just like bowing to our needs. And we say, make us a sandwich. You go and you make us a sandwich and you do what you're told. No.
We still have the same mission, same purpose as a man does, as far as creating disciples and doing what the Bible says.
Right.
It's just done in different ways.
Exactly. Right. I was out in Oklahoma this weekend leading a men's event. Diane at their women's group, powerful weekend, Holy Spirit encounters. Guess what? Diane was like, I was praying over these women and this happened and this happened. She's out doing her things. That doesn't mean that she doesn't still go out and do these powerful things. She does. She's creating disciples in those other aspects as well. But our family dynamic is be able to keep us in those aspects. You could have been like, you're not going out to Tulsa. What do you need to go out there for? Your company's online. Like, you're going to go away for a night. Like, I need you in the house. Who else is going to help me do the laundry? And I need help with this. I got to get ready for Bible study tomorrow.
I can't take care of the kids.
It's like, no, like we just flow with it. That's why we don't argue. We're all for the same mission, because 2 became 1. I'm submitted to Christ. You're submitted to me because you also love Christ, because you see my habits and who I am, and I'm fully died to self and to Christ. You just roll with it and all these other things, and we're doing good, right?
Right.
Being feminine does not mean you're weak or oppressed. It actually puts you in a role to actually thrive, to do more than you could ever ask or imagine, to be in your perfect role. Instead of being a telephone that's used as a paperweight, you're actually being a telephone used as a telephone. And that's a weird analogy, but it's like we're actually doing what God created you to do. And because of that, you will thrive like never before. I could stop being a coach, a podcaster, a speaker, an evangelist, and all of that, and I could get a job at Costco. Guess what? I'll be impactful in certain aspects, but not how God intended me to be impactful.
Yeah.
If I use this phone as a paperweight instead of a phone, it'll be impactful. It's using it as a paperweight, but it can do so much more as an actual phone, right? And so when we get the women in that, it doesn't mean you're weak or oppressed. You're actually more empowered because of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people need to realize. Number 3, women are more anxious and unfilled than ever before. You're seeing it across the board. So many overweight women, so many unfulfilled women. You were one of them. Not necessarily overweight, a couple of pounds to lose, but not happy with yourself in those
Overwhelmed.
aspects. Despite more opportunity than ever, studies show skyrocketing rates of anxiety, depression, and burnout in women. They've been told they don't need a man, but are carrying the full weight of motherhood, career, and spiritual leadership alone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't need a man. You don't need a man. Like,
That's not what God says. He created
what?
a woman to have a man.
And the man to have the woman,
That's
right?
right.
In those aspects. Oh, you don't need no man. Now we talk about not having a need for each other
Right.
because the only needs we have is God, right? Like that's where Jesus says when they're like, he says the only food I need is the doing the will of my Father, right?
Right.
That's what we need about each other. The only thing I have is doing the will of my Father.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with you, right?
Right.
We desire, we love, we cherish all these other things with each other,
Yeah.
but we don't need each other. But God has given us that to be an even more accelerator. Because
Right.
I'll still be an evangelist without you. Like you get
For
hit by
sure.
a bus, I'm still going to carry on, right? I get hit by a bus. You going to carry on through women's studies. You're going to carry on in all these other aspects, and you're going to carry on with what God has for your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just make it more complete, and you make it more complete in those aspects for me, in those aspects, and vice versa.
Right.
And so if the studies are proving that it's skyrocketing anxiety, depression, burnout women. I see so many women on antidepressants. They think they have all these disorders and all these other aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, what you don't have is a biblical correctly home. Society's ruining your mindset of trying to empower these women. You go make your own money. You go do all these things. You go do this, this, and this. And it's ruining the home.
Yeah.
Number 4, disrespect for men is celebrated. Strong, independent women are praised while strong leading men are mocked. This undermined marriages and men passive and disengaged because now at home the wives are confused
Mm-hmm.
because they're being told something else, and then just in general men are like, oh, you're being toxic for being a strong man, for being physically fit, for doing these things that you do for your families, of being what a strong masculine man actually is, and they're told you're being toxic.
Yeah.
And so it's disempowering. Well, then the wife thinks this because they're watching it on TV, the news, all these other programs or social media, and they're being in it, and it's disrespectful to the men, and they're not being celebrated. Men desire respect, and women desire security.
Right.
So when that's happening, the men are not getting respect on the back end.
It's no wonder people feel unfulfilled because their roles aren't going in the way that they're supposed to, and the men aren't doing. I mean, society tells you so much different that it confuses people, and that's why they feel so unfulfilled in their life because they're not doing the roles that God called them to do, and so it messes everything up in their home and the way the home is supposed to be structured.
No, well said on that. And the last one is the rise of single motherhood becomes normalized. Culture glamorizes it, but the stats are just devastating the children in society. God designed family, not isolation. So many people, that's why I say don't take advice from lukewarm Christians or secular men or women. I can't tell you how many times we've been doing this where men come into our program and they're like, yeah, my wife has all these friends and they're just telling them you're better off without them. And it's okay to get a divorce. I've been divorced. You'll be okay. And all these, it's not like the men are cheating on their wives or beating their wives. They're just saying they're unhappy or whatever. Yeah, because the dynamics wrong. Their
Mm-hmm.
order is wrong. God's self-marriage kids business is not happening.
Right.
Their intimacy, the trinity of intimacy is off. It's most spiritual, emotional, and physical. The men aren't actually in the masculine role and the women's aren't in the feminine role. And because of that, yeah, no wonder the marriage is jacked up. The 3 main aspects are jacked up.
Yeah.
Fix that. You don't need to go to another one because you're going to go find another man who's jacked up as well because you're still living in the same culture. That's why me and you don't want to live in this world. We live in this world, but we're not of this world.
That's right.
Right. And so because of that, it's just normalizing it. Oh, just single motherhood and all these other things. And it's like, man, I honor you single mothers out there. If you were put in this situation, not due to your own fault and all these other aspects.
Right.
Right. And for holding it down. But don't go try to be a single mother.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're a strong, empowered woman.
Yeah.
No, not at all. So how do we correct this? This is where we jump in, guys. Now, I want this to be clear before we get into this. We are not saying women don't have callings on their life. Some of my favorite speakers are women. Some of my favorite authors are women. And when they go out and take territory, when they get back in their home, guess what? They're in their role, right? Of where they're doing in that. Even if the woman who was out being speakers, CEOs, things like that, that God give them this mission. Don't go do that because your flesh wants to, but go do it because that's what God put you into.
Yeah, if he called you to it.
Yes, not just because, well, that's something I really enjoy. But did God tell you to do it? I enjoy BMX racing. I enjoy UFC. I would love to be a commentator for it and do a podcast on it.
Mm-hmm.
God didn't call me to do that. I would enjoy that. God didn't call me to do that. So I don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd be very careful. So if God told you to do that role, and even if you make 10 times more money than your husband, that does not make you that you're better than your husband. The roles stay the same. Does that fit into your family mission? It'd be a way too long of a podcast if we went into the whole family mission on that. We have a podcast on it.
Mm-hmm.
But that means you still get back into your roles in the home and you don't work 60, 70 hours a week because you can make all that much more money. Now you're being an idol to money, your kingdom mission, and your family has to have the dynamic the way it's supposed to be. So what do we do? How do we correct this? The solution isn't to overpower men or silence women. It's to restore God's order back into it. Number one, reestablish biblical roles, masculine leadership, feminine influence, not a power struggle, divine design. Guys, you have to get back into those things of what the masculine role is and what the feminine role is. We're not going to break down what that all exactly looks like on this one. Way too long. Number two, teach young men early to lead. Be responsibility, teach discipline, and model godly strength from childhood. That's why it's our role as parents to be able to model this for our family. That's why we say order is God, self-marriage, kids, business, right? Mm-hmm. So when we come bring a deep relationship with God, we're mentally, physically, relationally, and spiritually on point. We bring a full cup to the marriage, and we're doing that. We're modeling that for our kids so they grow up into it. At the men's event this weekend, it was just evident, clear, time and time again. I've done so many of these men's events now. Every single time, the family dynamic was jacked up growing home. The man was so jacked up in his own ways. The mom was lost in all of her, struggling in her ways. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Now all these men grew up with struggling things. A lot of these men had thriving businesses and things like that, but they're dying on the inside.
Yeah.
Because it does not matter about your business. It matters what's going on in the business on inside of your heart.
Right.
That's where it's at.
Yeah. Worldly ways, they look successful, but it's not true.
100%. Next, so we got to be able to show to the kids, encourage strong, godly women, not feminist clones, women who embrace motherhood, submission biblically, and feminine strength as honorable and powerful. Championing our wives, talking about our family mission. What does this actually look like? Where are we heading? So many men want the wives to follow them and they don't know where they're following them to. Where are you following them to? On a trip? On retirement? Where is that? That's not part of the picture. There is no Hebrew word for retirement. So there's no biblical retirement. It's until the day we die. That doesn't mean you're pounding nails till the day you die. No, because that would be a branch on the tree. We have this forever. Where are you leading your family? And because that you get your roles good. And so then you can encourage your spouse that you're seeing her in these things and being on that aspect of things. So we must encourage each other. That's why the Bible in Psalms 100 verse 4 says you get into the gates of heaven, or you get into the gates via thanksgiving and into his courts via praise. When we're honoring and worshiping God and thankful and grateful, we get close to God. That's the same thing with our wife. If we're doing the same, we'll be close to her.
Yeah.
But then there's also a verse in 1 Corinthians 10:10 where it says, do not be like the ones who complained, and because they complained were killed by the destroying angel. So that when you complain, you get closer to the devil. When you praise, you get closer to God. So same thing in your marriage. You're complaining about your marriage and complaining to your wife, you're getting closer to the devil. If you're praising and encouraging your wife, you're getting closer to God in those moments. Well, she doesn't receive it. She don't like it when I do that. Oh, she does. You're just in this weird spot. Yeah, keep going, structure, and it eventually will straighten itself out.
Right.
So next, recenter the home around the father's presence. Make fathers spiritually, emotionally, and physically present again, not just providers, priests of the home. So men, emotionally vulnerable, emotionally stable, spiritually leading your family. I don't care if they're tired and they don't want to go to church. You're getting them there. I don't care if they want to play travel sports. You're not doing it because you're going to church. I don't care about all these other things that are happening. You do what you're supposed to do in all of these aspects. And then also just being physically present in the home is the next best thing. Like, it's not about working 60, 70 hours a week. It's about how little can I work? How much money can I make during those little hours that I work, all while impacting the kingdom the most, using my unique talents and testimony and doing that, right? And there has to be a cutoff. And that's where you show your family, so you
Hmm.
show your kids and you show God that I'm going to honor the time that you've given me, and I'm going to still win in all areas of life, not just work. Well, it's just been a busy season. I have to work 70 hours a week because I have all these bills to keep up. Give God something to work with. This is
Yeah.
a long 2-1, but I promise you, the less hours I work, the more money that I make. Every time we try to work more money, yeah, it looked like on paper we were making more money, but then I actually did it God's way and just kept my order. Guess what? More peace, more impact, more wisdom, more knowledge, more love. All of that things started happening because I stopped working at a specific time, no matter what. No matter what.
And that's how things, when they fall into place the right way, is because of that, you know? And so it's so important. And so many men work way too many hours trying to do the right thing, what they think is the right thing, but it's not.
Yeah, we're going to do a podcast on intentionality with your wife, intentionality with God,
Yeah.
intentionality with other people. Because if you're not intentional with anything, they'll start growing away. That's how you draw away from friends. I mean, I haven't talked to that person in a while. We were so tight. It's the same thing with your wife. It's the same thing with God.
Yeah.
You must be intentional and non-negotiable in these aspects.
Hmm.
Last, stop celebrating rebellion. Culture says, be your own God. You must teach to surrender to God's design is freedom. On that, stop celebrating culture. Now, imagine if you're listening to this, you're not part of the woke culture, especially if you made it this far in. Stop celebrating culture. It's God's way, not culture way. I don't care what the government says. I don't even care what your lukewarm church says. God's way. Get a deep relationship with God. It's
Hmm.
you and your relationship with God, being in the Word, dying to self, fasting, tithing, doing all of that stuff that you're doing. He's going to wring you out, and he's going to get your heart pure, and you'll have a deep relationship with him. And after that, you look at culture like, oh my God, I can't believe I used to be in this. Like, it's so black and white these days for us.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Hmm.
So, guys, I love strong women when they're in their role.
Yeah.
Men, be in your role.
Be in your role, men, so that way the woman can be in their role that they're supposed to be in.
5 quick things. What real masculinity looks like. He protects with strength, not fear. He leads with vision, not ego. He loves with truth, not passivity. He serves with sacrifice, not weakness. And he lives in holiness, not hustle. Let's go. All right, guys, we love y'all. If this impacted you, please rate it 5 stars. If you're on YouTube, give us a subscribe. And if you're interested in coaching, click the link below. If not, just keep listening. We'll keep serving. Love y'all.
Bye, guys.